Good morning, folks. My name is Lily Zanotti, and I'm the Programs and Events Coordinator for the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're going to get started momentarily on our webinar for Top 10 Practices for Successful Online Students. We're very excited about this webinar, but I'm just going to keep letting a couple more people join us, and then we are going to get started momentarily. Please remain with your videos and sound off as respect for our presenter, Dr. Riordon and Fallon Health. So let's admit a couple more people. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get started on the program, and then the rest of the folks that come in, I'll just let them in a few minutes. So again, welcome everybody this morning to our webinar. And let's see something here. So because I'm recording, I can't get back into my screen. Let's see something. Okay, well, Dr. Riordon, I can't get into my screen here. So let's just get started with this. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lily Zanotti, and I'm the Programs and Event Coordinator for the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. I welcome you this morning to our webinar series, which is graciously sponsored this year by Fallon Health. Fallon Health has been a strong supporter of the Chamber through this series of the pandemic that we've been having. And at this point, I would like to welcome Melissa Randall. She's the Corporate Communications Manager for Fallon Health. Melissa, and I'd like for you to comment on Fallon Health.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much, Lily. On behalf of Fallon Health, welcome to today's webinar. Fallon is pleased to support the Chamber's free webinar series, and this is just one of the many ways in which Fallon has been taking steps over the past several months to support our customers, as well as the broader community during the pandemic. We applaud the Chamber for all that they are doing to support the business community during these challenging times. The webinar series is really designed to provide relevant information, and I'm so glad to see so many of you have tuned in today to learn about the top 10 best practices for successful online students. You know, I had the opportunity just a short time ago to chat with your presenter this morning, and I know you are really going to enjoy what he has to offer. Again, on behalf of Fallon Health, thank you so much for joining today. Lily?
Thank you, Melissa, and welcome everybody again. I'm just going to give you a couple little housekeeping rules that we want to make sure that everybody's aware. We'd like you to please remain with your videos and sound off. And we will be using the chat box at the bottom of your screen for any Q&As that we're going to ask to Dr. Riordon. And if we don't get through all the questions answered by 11 o'clock, Dr. Riordon is willing to stay on a couple of extra minutes to get through most of the questions. And if we don't get them all answered, I will definitely make sure that we get those answered for you, and I will email them to you. This session is being pre-recorded. Well, not pre-recorded, it's being recorded live right now. And at this moment, I'd like to welcome you, Dr. Riordon, Dr. Jeremiah Riordon. He's a professor at Worcester State University. And Dr. Randall, for some reason, I can't get back onto my screen where I had your bio, so I apologize for that. So maybe when you introduce yourself, you can give your bio and your background history. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeremiah Riordon, and I work at Worcester State University, and we're thrilled to be putting this on. Thanks very much to Melissa Randall and Fallon Health for sponsoring this kind of thing. As we know, we read in the papers every single day another school is canceling live classes and going online. And this was something that is near and dear to my heart, this entire topic. I have been, I'll jump right into my presentation, but I've been teaching and working online for quite a long time. So this is all relevant information. I've had all of my students sit through this exact same kind of presentation because the goal really is online learning can be a very rewarding experience if it's done right. And that is from the point of view of the teacher and also the student. So let's jump right in and we'll go on to our presentation. All right, so the 10 best practices of successful online students is something that I began to put together a couple of years ago because I had an awful lot of students coming on board into my classes, and a lot of them were struggling. A lot of the students were brand new to online classes, and I wanted to make sure that their transition into academic online work was going to be as painless as possible. Okay, so I'm Jeremiah Riordon, Doctor of Education, and I'm a professor, teacher, trainer, and subject matter expert in online teaching and learning. I've been doing this for a very long time. I have an earned doctorate from Northeastern University, multiple certifications from a group called Quality Matters, which is considered the gold standard in online course design best practices. And I was very happy to be honored with a Course of Distinction Award for Outstanding Course Design from Massachusetts Colleges Online. I have been teaching for over 2 decades online. I was introduced to Blackboard when it was just called Blackboard. It wasn't Blackboard 1.0 or all the way up to Blackboard 9.2, the later versions we're now using. But it's been a fantastic experience. And over that time, I have sat down with my students and I've interviewed them both with quantitative methods, where I sent out surveys and collected a lot of information. And then I took that information and sat down with them in smaller groups and focus groups because I wanted to figure out what were the best practices of the students that I had in my class that resulted in the highest academic success for my class, and also just an online experience for the students. Using this continuous improvement model that you see on the screen now, I've been designing, developing, and delivering and redesigning online courses for multiple areas of study using Blackboard, Moodle, Google Classroom, and Canvas. And over that time, I've taught over 250 online classes over the last 2 decades and submitted final grades for more than 3,600 online college and high school students. I've gained a lot of insight from that experience because I also began my own online student experience back in 2009 when I began my doctoral pursuits. And I wanted to complete my doctorate. You have to finish your doctorate within 7 years of your start date. And about half of my classes were online. So I've been teaching students for many years, but I hadn't sat in the student's chair until 2009. And that was when a lot of my research began with my students, because I also realized I had peers that were going for their doctorates, for their graduate degrees, my students in my classes, and everybody was still working on their online class success. And in a sense, it's an old saying, but it's a true saying. We were building the plane while we were flying the plane. So I introduced to you these 10 best practices, my most successful online students, to help students new to online learning or those struggling in their online classes earn better grades, reduce your anxiety, and gain a better grasp of your subject matter. So if you are that new student or that struggling online student, you know, you're looking at your computer and you're thinking, I didn't know I was going to be online this year. Perhaps you're in your later high school years or your college years already, and you're really struggling with this because this was not how it was supposed to be. You really thought you would be in your classes and you'd be doing what you've been doing for most of your life, experiencing classroom learning, the traditional face-to-face, or at the very least, possibly a hybrid. But a lot of our classes are going 100% online, and there is a way to do it right. Best practice, online student success, practice number 1. Get and stay organized from the very start. Get organized and stay organized. As soon as you know you are taking an online class, create a dedicated file on your laptop or your desktop, or in an online repository such as the cloud, and title the file with the name of your course. And as the course progresses, save every single file and download from your online course into that one dedicated file. I look at the online on your screen right now, you see the class Leadership Theory. That's one of the courses I teach. You create that on day one of your class, or as soon as you have access to the syllabus, and everything that you take from that class goes into that one file. I don't know if you're like me or some of my peers, but if you look at my regular computer, either my laptop screen or my desktop screen, it is littered with way too many different files, and I'm always hunting for files that I need. So when I incorporated this method of whatever my class I was teaching, whether it was Introduction to Psychology, General Psychology, Abnormal Psychology, Marriage and the Family, or Leadership Theory, I began to I developed one file that holds everything in that class. And then I took it to another level where inside that Leadership Theory, I looked at the syllabus for the course, and I downloaded it, and I saved it from my desktop onto my desktop. And I noticed that if I have a section in my syllabus called quizzes, or weekly homework assignments, or discussion boards, or term papers, or extra credit, you create subfolders for each and every one of those so that it's really easy for you to find your way all through your class because you saved it to the right place at the right time. As soon as you get it, you save it to those files. So many of my students have come back and say this has been a very helpful way of them maintaining all their records, keeping everything together. They were never looking for anything. They weren't looking for the syllabus. They weren't looking for quizzes that they've taken, because once you take a quiz online, you do want to save a copy of it and put it inside your quiz file, because sometimes the internet hiccups. Even in this day and age, in the year 2020, the internet will disconnect for just a second, and suddenly you've lost a quiz that you had worked on and you got a good grade on, and now you have a little bit of proof that you can at least show to your instructor and say, look, this is the quiz, I took it on this day, I saved it, it's right in this file, and you can send it to them as a PDF, and that will help you out. Moving onward, practice number 2 of successful online students. Schedule course work time like a traditional live class that meets weekly. Many of my most successful online students revealed they built course work time into their weekly schedule, as though they were attending a traditional face-to-face class of instruction that met weekly in a brick and mortar classroom. As soon as the class started, these students scheduled 3, 4, 5, or more hours into their weekly schedule for completing all the course assignments from my online course, as though they were attending a scheduled class meeting in the classroom with the instructor. Additionally, these students would set those blocks of dedicated course work time to repeat every week automatically on their laptop, PC, or smartphone calendar for the duration of the entire semester, quarter, or term. So they took comfort knowing they would always have blocked off time for coursework for the duration of the course. I also learned that some of the students who describe themselves as mature and disciplined in their surveys sometimes prefer to block off a single 3 or 4 or 5 hour block on just one day of the week rather than parse it out over the course of an entire week. They did that for the entire semester to dedicate to just my online course. These self-described mature and disciplined students were still able to earn high letter grades of A or A-, and they demonstrated a solid subject mastery of the subject matter. They knew their work ethic best by being honest with themselves and reflecting on their past behaviors. When they have completed brick and mortar classes, they knew what their habits were, they knew what their practices were, they knew because of their past work experience, whether they had been an individual who was in the military, whether they were in some kind of field where they had to work a very strict schedule. So the students that had a great connection to their work ethic and were honest with themselves and described themselves as mature said, you know what, I'm going to do this one day a week. I know nothing's going to get in the way of it. If there's a Patriots game on that night, it doesn't really matter. I know I'm going to sit down with my 3 to 4 to 5 hour block, and I'm going to do the work I need to do. Other students had to look at themselves and again, be honest with themselves. Speaking directly, surveys and focus groups revealed students who had not yet worked in a full-time position of employment tended to do best in an online course by blocking off an hour a day over 3 to 5 days each week for the entire semester. Additionally, many students who said this practice of scheduling multiple hour-long blocks over a week into their schedules improved their time management skills and significantly lowered their stress about not having enough time for completing their coursework. Students must keep in mind that this practice of you blocking off 3, 4, 5, or even 6 hours per week on your schedule is for a single, typical semester or quarter-long online course, which usually requires between about 37.5 and 45 instructor contact hours over a 15-week period. That's a typical semester is a 15-week period. If you're taking 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 6 online credit courses, you need to block off the appropriate amount of hours on your calendar for each course you're taking. And some students recommended color coding each course within their work time block. So a quick glance at your weekly calendar on your laptop was a visual inventory of what coursework was due next. For example, if you're taking 5 online courses over a traditional 15-week semester, you should be blocking off a minimum of 15 to 20 hours of additional time, of course work time. And your highest achieving peer students would suggest also blocking off additional time for reading text assignments. So on the screen, you see an example of a student who shared their schedule with me, and they said, okay, they blocked off 3 hours on Sundays for English Comp 1 work. They blocked off 4 hours total for biology over the course of a semester. Western Civ, they blocked off 3. Algebra and Trig, they blocked off 4. And they knew themselves, they knew how they would have to get, how much time they would need to get that work done. And on top of that, my most successful students, you'll notice in the middle, they blocked off time for reading, just reading of the text. Students must keep in mind that practice is really for that semester-long course when you're only talking 3 to 6 hours. But if you're talking about, taking multiple classes, you really got to load it on the front end of 20 to 24 hours. And you can always back off later if you're finding yourself with a little more time than you had needed to get all the coursework done. In all honesty, that doesn't happen very often. The ones that block off the time up to 24 hours are dedicating their time to their academic success, and they're looking at it as my academic experience is my job. For further consideration, if you're an online student taking an accelerated course in, say, 10 weeks, 7.5 weeks, or a 5 or 6 week course or the summer, or even a 3-week accelerated winter semester course, or Maymester course, we also call them, in which you're cramming a lot of time of up to 45 hours of instructor contact time into just 3 weeks, you need to adjust your schedule for that accelerated course. So if you're taking a 10-week course, you need 4.5 to 6 hours per week. A 7.5-week or half semester course requires 6 to 8 hours per week. So you got to look at the end block there of, okay, I know I have to take 37.5 to 45 hours and divide that by the number of weeks. And that's about how many hours you need to dedicate so that you can you go after your highest online success. Now, an important consideration is, yes, you can take accelerated courses. I've had students have to sign up for my accelerated psychology courses in May because they're short of the courses they need to graduate and they need 3 more credits. So they blocked off everything off their schedule. They jumped right in and they took my course. And that's great, as long as you have the time and the discipline and the maturity to do all of that. However, there is a cost to that. There won't be any time for work or fun or anything else when you're taking that 3-week accelerated course. You've really got to dive into just that. And I've been here where you see this very frustrated student. As a note of caution, according to my research, students most likely to experience the least amount of academic success in online courses reported they did not block off time each week dedicated to completing assignments. And they admitted they often completed coursework whenever they could find time in their schedules, which sometimes resulted in little or no coursework submitted. Also resulted in they were rushing to complete work last minute before deadlines, and they knew their grades often suffered due to their lack of planning. And the low grades, that's really something that, that's our measurement of how much an individual is getting out of a course. And you got to ask yourself, here we are at the beginning of the semester, you have a chance to set everything right with practice number 1, creating your dedicated file, and practice number 2, scheduling course work time like a traditional live class that meets weekly. Otherwise, I promise you, you will be asking yourself, why do I do this to myself? Practice number 3 of successful online students. Block off major assignment due dates on your preferred online calendar, setting reminders to count down for specific assignment due dates. Setting reminders to count down for specific assignment due dates is very helpful. My most successful online students from past online courses, upon being given access to the online course materials and the syllabus, would take that syllabus and build all of my assignments due dates into their preferred online calendar. They also set calendar reminders for major assignments that represented major percentages of their final grades, such as midterm papers, midterm exams, presentations, final exams, and extra credit. They would also build in early alert reminders on each one of those assignments you see on the screen with a 4-week countdown, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and 1 week countdown. And some even progressed to a daily reminder until they submitted the assignment. Since you may be taking 2, 3, or more online classes at this time, the highest performing online students made sure they built time into their calendars for all their major assignments they knew would require more time and effort for them to do their best coursework. So they went back in and they built that English Comp 1 midterm paper due Thursday, and then they backed out of it by reminding themselves with notifications 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, 7, 6, 5 days. That countdown continues like that. And I know that sounds a little excessive, but the beauty of it was these students really came back with the highest grades. And in all honesty, many submitted their coursework a little bit early rather than waiting until the deadline. So when they were by building those countdown reminders into their calendars for major assignments such as the midterm paper, many highly successful students reported they not only had time to write their first draft, but they were also able to submit the draft to the Academic Writing Center for review and feedback. And they also had time to make necessary edits based on Writing Center feedback. Furthermore, as I said before, most students who blocked off time and countdown reminders in their calendars on the day they first received their course syllabus submitted their final papers before the deadline. Not surprisingly, those who built major assignments into their calendars reported far lower stress over the running time of the entire course than the students who attempted to find time in their busy schedules to get the assignments done. I've been here, I kid you not. When I was in graduate school, I can remember being up very late, and this was back when computers were just getting their start and we were actually using word processors. And I was up at 2 o'clock trying to type out a paper that was due at 9 o'clock the next morning. And I kid you not, I kicked out the plug when I moved my chair and I lost everything and I had to start from scratch. I do believe that may have been the last time I cried as an adult, but I honestly, it just knocked me because I just didn't plan. And had I known then what I know now, this is how I'd set it up. I'd block off those major assignment due dates the second I get the syllabus. As mentioned previously, several very successful students recommended color coding all their course work time and their major assignments by using one dedicated color for each course. So a quick glance at their calendar on their smartphone or PC would visually inventory specific course work time and major assignment deadlines for each and every course. The use of these simple calendar management techniques was often created with improved time management skills in student academics in their professions and personal activities, as well as highest grade achievement. So you can see here, this student has a very busy work schedule, yes, but they blocked off course work time so they can accomplish everything. Because if they're trying to get all of that work done and also enjoy things like dinner with their family, maybe they're involved in theater, maybe they're involved in student government, whatever it is, they built time into their schedule so they can enjoy a quality of life along with a high quality academic experience. Because just imagine if that's the amount of work you need to get done and you're just trying to get to it when you can get to it, you can understand why students would have so many frustrating experiences just being that busy, they never get a break. So color code works very well with the students, and you can see just a quick glance, I've got some free time on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. I can actually breathe. So be good to yourselves and use these simple time management techniques. Practice number 4 of successful online students. Check your school email every day and communicate with your instructor every week. Students should check their school email every day. And they should also communicate with their teacher, their professor, their instructor on a weekly basis using either their institutional email through discussion board exchanges, if it's in your online class, or even by telephone. Some students reported in their surveys that they thought the school email was an added-on benefit from their institution, but not a requirement for them to use. Please know, your institution gives you that email so that they can have a primary communication tool that is reliable within the school, and also something so that it protects your rights to privacy. Students should know you provided that institutional email so the instructor can reach out to you, so administration can reach out to you for the purpose of communicating with your professor, school administration, and your fellow students. I have had students write to me from personal emails in the past, and I'm not even supposed to respond to that because really you have a right to privacy. So when you write to me from your online institutional email, I can respond back to that very quickly. That's not a problem. When you write to me from a personal email, for all I know, this could be your ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend who has their hands on your email because you gave it out to them at one point, and they're trying to pose you. And I know that sounds a little paranoid, but sadly it has happened. So always use your institutional email and get in the habit of checking your school email every day and try to communicate with your instructor every single week. It's a really good habit to get into. Either communicate through your discussion board online, communicate with your instructor through email, or even a phone call. And a lot of instructors are going online with their office hours. It doesn't hurt to pop in. We're all doing a lot of this online. We may never have a chance to reach each other in person. So go to those online Zoom hours just to connect and say, everything's going well. I'm doing really well. Any pointers for me? So you can see here, this is an email I received from a student. And I noticed that the student was having difficulty working in frontal lobe damage and impulsivity, and also with the parasympathetic nervous system. Give me a call. We can connect. There's a real person on this end. I'm not a living heart donor. Your instructor isn't a living heart donor. They want you to do well. So reach out to them. Take advantage of that offer. And check your email every day and communicate with your instructor weekly. So I write back to the student because I can actually look at Blackboard, I can look at Canvas, and I can get a real profile of how much time the student is spending online on certain subjects. And if Kayla is suffering, not really grasping onto frontal lobe damage and impulsivity, and also the parasympathetic nervous system, I can say, you want to redirect, you're doing a great job, you're spending a lot of time in discussion boards, I think you need to spend a little more time working on the in-course videos. But I can make some recommendations, and ideally I send them off to Kara, and she gets the message and gets back to me and connects with me on my online office hours. Practice number 5 of successful online students. Ask questions. Let your teacher, your instructor, your professor know when you don't understand something. Supporting the concept of communicating weekly with your online instructor, either discussion boards or through emails or office hours that are held on Zoom or even telephone calls. Another great habit of my most successful online students was to ask questions, often through emails, but also in class discussion boards or scheduled online class chats. Most often, if one student isn't grasping a lesson or a part of a lesson, other students may be experiencing the exact same level of confusion. While you as a student are completing coursework alone in your homes, you're not taking this class alone. And you have many other students in your virtual classroom. Your instructor has most likely covered this information in detail in traditional live classes and knows it very well. But an online course does not allow for your instructor to read your body language, your facial expressions, or see common body language indicators that a group of students, or all of my students are not grasping the information being covered. That's a disadvantage of online classes. So I got to lean on you as my students to reach back to me and say, I've got to ask some questions because I'm not getting it like I thought I would get it. Furthermore, best practices of online instruction have shown that once a student feels safe sharing questions on a lesson topic, and then seeing their peers maybe experiencing the same confusion, not only does the instructor know he or she made it focus a little more effort on the point in question, the students who ask the questions are often found to participate more in the class after asking their questions. I can't underemphasize that point enough. You asking questions as an online class, in an online class, is a gift to the instructor. The instructor loves that. I have never met any other professor, faculty member, or instructor that didn't like questions in an online class because it tells me this is where I need to focus a little more time. And ideally, it also encourages my students to keep participating and asking each other questions. And that's a great thing. More participation in the class by the student often instills a deeper grasp of course content. And not so surprisingly, that deeper grasp of any subject matter cultivates your interest in the overall subject due to increased confidence and your recognition that you have more in common with your peer students than you had assumed. Once again, the number 5 practice of my most successful online students is ask questions. Let your teacher know when you don't understand something. The best practice number 6 of successful online students is to read all of the information posted every single week. My most successful online students revealed that they tended to read all the information I posted every single week. And starting this practice in your first week with reading the course's entire syllabus as soon as you had access to it is a great start. A syllabus is the student's guide to a course. It's going to tell you how you're going to do very well in the course as long as you adhere to it. It includes course policies, required textbooks, how the course will be run by the instructor, and what will be expected of the student, and the schedule of assignments. So up on the screen, you see a sample of one of my past course syllabi, and my most successful students would take that on day 1, they would download the whole thing, and then they would build it right into their schedule using those earlier time management techniques I told you earlier. Now, important here is, yes, it gives a course description, what you're going to learn. It tells you the textbook. It tells you course requirements, which are, that's how your grade's going to be figured out. Your responses to the discussion board response papers, study, pool participation, midterm exams, your paper that you have to write on a movie, all of that is broken down so it equals it should equal exactly 100%. So, all right, that tells me where I need to put most of my emphasis. All right, midterm exam is big, 25%, term paper is big. A midterm exam is, let me see, study, pool, participation. All of that is very important, so I'm going to build that into my schedule. But it also tells you the dates of assignments that are going to be coming up. So over the course of a semester, I have a lot of work that's expected from my students, but by building this into your weekly schedule, you've built all the time you need to get the assignments done for me. So the number 6 best practice of my most successful online students is to read all the information posted every week. My most successful online students revealed that they tended to read all the information I posted every week. And by doing this, they really stayed in great communication with me. And there were very few misunderstandings. The directions for successfully completing assignments are always written within your course syllabus. Since a well-designed course, a well-designed online course, or a traditional live class, it aims all the energy and efforts at the students achieving the course learning objectives. Those are the overarching bulleted points at the beginning of your syllabus that says this is what this student's going to learn when they walk away from my course. The course learning objectives as the overarching promise of me, the instructor, to you, the student, for what you're going to take away over from the course at the end of the semester. And then on top of that, the week's modular learning objectives are smaller ways that I slowly build up so that you can get the overall course learning objectives so that everything supports everything else. If you look at it like a building blocks of a house, if I have a house and I put the foundation up and I'm putting each and every brick in the foundation, each one of those bricks is a weekly modular learning objective. And each board is a weekly modular learning objective, but ultimately your course learning objectives are what is contained within that house. So that if I have the course learning objectives, which are critical, those are the things that I'm telling my institution that you're going to know upon leaving, those are the areas everything should be focused at. All of my weekly modular learning objectives are aimed at supporting my course learning objectives. Individual assignments are all supportive of the weekly modular learning objectives. Every assignment supports the modular and the course learning objectives. So by that, I mean, let me see. If I have my abnormal psychology class that you see on the screen right now, that will have, say, 4 course learning objectives: examine the ethics of psychological treatments and diagnosis, course learning objective 2, course learning objective 3, course learning objective 4, develop a practical understanding so as to be able to use these concepts in your life. All of those things support you learning about abnormal psychology. Now, how do I get to that point? I can't just hit you with those large course learning objectives because those really are very large pieces of information that are made up of a lot of building blocks. So by implementing my weekly modular learning objectives, I target supporting those learning objectives a little bit at a time. Some of my week number 1 modular learning objectives will support the overall course learning objective, number 1 and 2. So you can see how there's an awful lot of crisscross patterns here. All of this gives you an understanding of abnormal psychology, which you get from the 4 course learning objectives, and then you get 15 weeks of modular learning objectives. And that's not where it ends. Below that are all the learning activities that I'll engage you in over the course of a semester, and there'll be smaller assignments that take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, to slowly build up your understanding of each one of those modular learning objectives. So it is very important that you do all your coursework, because you can see how each one of those, it's almost like a house of cards. And it's those critical course learning objectives are all supported by your modular learning objectives, which are supported by the learning assignments that I have inside the class. So if you are going, if I want to give you a full understanding of course learning objective number 4, develop a practical understanding so as to be able to use these concepts in your life. Part of that is going to be the debate assignment that I gave you on week number 9. And in that debate assignments, we explained, we described, we outlined. All of those points support course learning objective number 4. However, over the course of a semester, you missed a couple posts that missed on week number 2, on week number 4, you missed the Buzz Groups assignment. On week number 7, your peer review assignment, you didn't get that in because you didn't block enough time. The text reading assignment, that during week number 11, that gave you a little weak understanding. And then week number 14, all of those, the social annotation of text assignment on the lower far right, all of those things weaken your understanding of those major course learning exams. So at the end of the semester, you don't get the grade that we had hoped you were going to get. You don't get the A, the A minus, the B plus. Sadly, you might end up with that D or worse. So just focus on that, because when you're working on developing a course from my end as the instructor, this is how I build it, so that you can get a much better understanding of those 3 credits that you get at the end of the semester. Online student success practice number 7. Write, cut and paste, save, and then post. Even 20 plus years into online learning, students sometimes spend hours working on a discussion board post. Maybe it's 5 paragraphs they had to write because the assignment required 5 paragraphs. Each paragraph is between 5 and 7 sentences. They have to research it out of their textbook. They put that up there. They've captured lightning in a bottle. They love exactly what they wrote. They click submit, and suddenly all of their work is gone off into the oblivion of the internet. Even for a second, when your internet is connected and everything's going fantastic, if it blips for even a second, it's very common for your learning management system, platform, whatever it is, whether it's Blackboard, Moodle, Google Classroom, they all do this because I've worked with them all. It's happens when students lose their internet connection, even just for that millisecond. And though your screen stays the same, you are immediately logged out of your class and you won't find out until you click submit and you lost your work. Now, I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to even say my students that say they adopted this practice only did it after they paid the piper. It was not a very good experience for them because they really wrote a perfect essay. They loved it. They click submit and it's gone. Now, I can't explain how it happens. The good thing is it very rarely happens now. Way back when I first started teaching on Blackboard, it seemed to happen to the students and me as the faculty member once a week. But if you play it safe and you write it out in, say, Word or in your Google Docs, then you cut and paste it, then you save your original document on your computer in that file I told you about. When you click submit, and it rarely ever happens, but if it does disappear, then you can cut and paste your finished assignment directly back into your discussion board and click submit. You don't have to recreate the whole thing from scratch. I strongly recommend you do that because I'll tell you this and you're going to remember these words and you're going to say, oh, I can't believe I did that. He warned us against this and then it happened to me. Get in the habit right now, as you're writing your syllabus, as you get your syllabus, you're creating your files, start saving all of your assignments right into that one file, into your discussion board, into your quizzes, because you may never use it, but the one time you use it, you will be thrilled you stayed in this practice. So you clicked on it, and it disappeared, you lost it, you're really upset by that, but the good thing is you will then be able to go back right in and write twin studies and mental illness original post, cut and paste, and you're able to put it right back up with very little work, and then all of a sudden you click submit, and this time it went through. Again, it may never happen to you, but if it ever happens to you, you'll be very happy you took on that practice of writing, cutting, pasting, saving, and then post. Practice number 8 of successful online students: do your own work. In reviewing the surveys and in-depth discussions with my past online students and instructing thousands of students over the years, I cannot stress the importance of always doing your own work. Passing someone else's work off as your own is plagiarism. And a lot of students seem to have gotten foggy on the understanding of what is plagiarism. Doing your own work helps you gain a solid grasp on the subject matter of the course. That's my goal as your instructor. That's my goal. My goal whenever I head up a training. And students should be aware that your instructor, like me, they use tools called SafeAssign, Turnitin, Grammarly, and another one called Scribber. Now, it's really important that you use these tools also, because you could be, we just want to make sure we give you credit for the work you did. You can still use other sources. You can still cut and paste some information because you might be quoting someone, but make sure you properly cite the source of the information. I can't tell you the number of times it happens to me, but most instructors will accept about a 15% copy rate in SafeAssign, Turnitin, Grammarly, or any of the other plagiarism tools. 15% is usually information because it's copied the exact same way from your references, because all your references look the exact same on your reference page, because they're supposed to be outlined according to either APA or MLA standards. So they're going to look the same. So we understand there's going to be some, overlap. However, you need to know that these tools are there for you also. So when you put a paper in to me, you can look at the SafeAssign report and say, oh, it's about 10%. Okay, that's good. 15%. Okay, that's acceptable. But I've had students turn in papers that are 70% copied from other students' work and upwards of 100. And that can result in an F. Academic dishonesty is something that's still strongly enforced on college campuses, so just make sure you protect yourself by doing your own work. Additionally, over the course of a quarter, semester, term, your teacher is probably going to become very familiar with how you, as a student, express yourself in written form. So if you suddenly submit an assignment to me using words and phraseology inconsistent with your past writing assignments, and you're suddenly expressing thoughts as though composed by another author, it is far more obvious than most students think. And your instructor will likely spot it and call you on it, and you just don't need the F on your transcript. Now, some instructors will fail you on the assignment, some instructors will fail you on the entire class, and some instructors some colleges, if the instructor forwards you onto the disciplinary board, may kick you out. So just be safe, do your own work. You have an enormous amount of information at your fingertips with your computers. Just make sure you properly cite the individuals that have done the work, and then also make sure you can take information and say I have you write a paper out of your textbook. I need you to be able to look at that information and then boil it down so it's communicated in your words. That's not plagiarism. But when you're using their words, that's plagiarism. So just be sure you always do your own work and check your safe assign, turn it in percentages before you submit it. Best practice number 9, recognize online courses offer flexible learning, but they are not easy. When the class starts and students learn they're required to log into course several times per week, check their email every day, complete writing assignments each week, complete time tests and quizzes, watch educational videos, and respond to written posts of their peers, these students are often shocked at the amount of work expected in a course each week. To succeed in an online course, students should know they still have to put some time and effort into that course, the same as a traditional class in brick and mortar. And in all honesty, a lot of my students said they found online courses, the benefit that they got from the online courses was far greater, but also that the online course was harder than their live class because those students admitted they were able to hide in the back row of their live class once in a while. In an online course, everybody's sitting in the front row. And every week, you've got to put some information up there to show, I get the modular learning assignment. I get the modular learning assignment the way it supports the course learning objective. Those are important things. But I've also had students say, geez, this professor seemed to think that all I had to do was his course. No, but I have 37.5 hours to 45 hours of work that you and I need to accomplish together. So I'm going to expect you to put a lot of time into the course each week, whether it's 3, 4, 5, or 6 hours for my one course, or 20 to 24 hours if you're taking 4 or 5 courses. So just be thinking about that. Online courses offer flexible learning, meaning you can get to it over the course of the week if you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it doesn't mean the course is easy. It is going to be challenging because it should be challenging. Otherwise, it's not worth the money you're paying. Most learning management systems such as Blackboard, Moodle, Canvas allow the course instructor to view a very detailed course report of all my user activities, overall time each student spends in the course, and detailed information about the student's activity while in the assignments, and time spent on each activity, as well as specific time spent and specific learning activity engagement, and much, much more. As you can see, this is a very simple report, but if I click on any one of those, it shows me exactly what my students are doing in that one section. The course report also provides the instructor with the average amount of time a student has spent by all students, by each student individually, by day, by week, by month, what hours of the day are they most likely involved. And this provides the instructors with a thorough snapshot of the amount of time high-achieving students are spend accessing and exploring the coursework that I put up there, as well as those not logging in time and putting in very weak efforts. With the ability to run these course reports, whenever a student contacts me to say they are working very hard in my course, but not doing as well as they expected, after a quick review of the students' assignments and their grades to date, as you can see on the screen, I then will also look into what time they're putting into the class, what types of assignments they're spending their time on, the overall course summary of user activity, how much are they putting in compared to their peers. And for some of my students, the course report reveals long hours of effort and activity in my course, including where they're dedicating their efforts in the class and the time they're putting into each assignment. When the student and I next communicate, ideally through a telephone call or possibly a Zoom meeting, that report information helps me advise them with strategies for improving their study practices. If I think that they're putting way too much time in the discussion board because they're really knocking it out of the park with all their discussion grades, maybe I want to encourage them to spend some more time taking the quizzes. For example, in my classes, you can take each quiz 3 times. Each quiz is going to be randomly created, and so the questions may not be the same. You'll get an immediate response when you click submit, and you'll get your grade. You'll know, wow, I get a 75 that first time. But if you're only taking that and you're getting a 75 and 75 is good enough to you, why are you leaving those 2 other quiz attempts on the table? Because each one of those, in my class at least, they're not held against you. You could do worse on both those and you're still going to get your highest score. If you get a 90 on your 3rd attempt because you're diving into the information, you looked at your first attempt and you said, wow, I really didn't know the Broca region of the brain as much as I should have known, so I'm going to go back and study that. And then you come back and you take it again, and the second time you get an 85. So use it almost as a diagnostic. But are you taking me up on all those, the chances that you can take in my class to do your best? Now, I might recommend to you some one-on-one tutoring with another student in the class, or from your academic tutor section, department in your school. I might recommend you go to our writing center because you could use some work there. I might recommend you form a study group with your peers using Zoom or Skype or any of the others, because a study group really does help you process information deeper into your long-term memory. I want you to think about something. I'm trying to hit you visually, auditorily, and also get you to do something so you're doing it practically, hands-on, kinesthetically. If I can take you and then put you in a study group and get you to talk to other students about that stuff, that information gets processed so far into your long-term memory, it is going to be easy for you to recall it because you engaged in communication about it with other students and you clarified possible misunderstandings. So take advantage of reaching out to your instructor. If you're struggling, they can look at the course reports, figure out how they can help you do better in your class by a number of different strategies. Practice number 10. The final best practice for successful online students, practice number 10, is to make yourself the priority whenever working on coursework, and do not multitask. For 97.5% of the population, multitasking is believed to be impossible. As a matter of fact, when we believe we are all multitasking, we're really not doing 2 or more things at once, but instead we are doing individual actions in rapid succession. The neuroscience on this is very clear on multitasking. Human brains are designed to be monotaskers. One study revealed only 2.5% of people multitask effectively. The rest of us perform worse. Actually, a Nokia study, the phone company out of Norway, did a very lengthy study of tens of thousands of people on multitasking. And they found out that when you and I multitask, we actually decrease our efficiency on our task by 37% average. So don't multitask. Try to focus on monotasking. When the rest of us perform 2 complex activities simultaneously, multitasking is simply an illusion we tell ourselves. Neuroscientists studying the brain are concerned our tendency in today's busy life is to divide our attention, rather than focus our attention on a single task at hand. Dividing our attention has been shown to have an extremely negative impact on 3 critical learning considerations, or academic considerations: attentiveness, learning, and mindfulness. In short, take the time you have blocked off in your schedule in practice number 2 and number 3 and even number 1. Shut off your phone. Turn off your music. I know you like to listen to classical music maybe and think, oh, it's going to help me do better. Turn off your music because it's distracting part of your brain. Lock your bedroom or your office door and make yourself 100% unavailable to the disturbances of others. Ideally, create your own library-like environment at home, or perhaps at your work, or even go to the library if you're allowed. And make that place, wherever you have as your study place, your area of privacy, your own fortress of academic solitude. But it must be a place where you can tune out all distractions for your period of blocked off coursework time. It is not you being selfish. This is all part of your plan. You're looking at this and you're saying, okay, how can I do best? You need to be good to yourself. You're going on for education for a reason. Talk to your family, your friends, and workmates. And as soon as you block off the time in your schedule to complete your coursework, remind them of that and clearly notify them that at the times you're blocking off are 100% reserved for you to complete your coursework, and let them know you're counting on their support in helping you achieve your academic best. And then rigidly adhere to abiding by your scheduled academic me time, your fortress of solitude time, focusing solely on getting your coursework done without any interruptions. I know that sounds very selfish today because everybody is always texting you, emailing you, reaching out by phone, popping into your room. All of that, sadly, is a distraction. And if you blocked off time, you have time for those distractions later, but not during your academic me time. Multiple studies have demonstrated that multitasking or trying to work in an environment in which you are interrupted will negatively impact your academic performance or your work performance, including your online student success. Best practice number 10 of the successful online student is make yourself the priority whenever working on coursework, and do not multitask. Doing a very quick review of our 10 best practices. Get organized and stay organized on your computer from the very start. Schedule coursework time like a traditional live class that meets weekly. Block off major assignment due dates on your preferred online calendar, setting reminders to count down for specific assignment due dates. Check your school email every day and communicate with your instructor weekly, even if it's just to check in. Ask questions. Let your teacher know when you don't understand something. Read all the information posted every week. Don't skim the articles. Don't skim announcements. You really will benefit by paying attention to emails from the instructor, reading all the assignment instructions, because you may find out you're doing work you don't have to do. Write, cut and paste, save, and then post in your online class. Do your own work. Recognize online courses offer flexible learning, but are not easy. They're supposed to challenge you so you get something out of them. And make yourself the priority whenever working on coursework, and do not multitask. I'm Jeremiah Riordon. I work at Worcester State University, and I wanted to reach out to a lot of students. You now have my 10 best practices of my most successful online students, gathered over 20 plus years. 250 online courses, more than 3,600 online students, based on feedback from quantitative surveys and qualitative focus groups, and hundreds of one-on-one discussions with my past online students. You don't have to adopt all of these 10 practices to have a successful online academic experience, but by adopting 3, 4, or more now in this semester and future semesters, and studying smarter, not harder, you will gain a much better subject mastery of your course learning objectives and benefit from a successful online student experience. I want to leave you with my favorite quote. My favorite quote is, never stop learning because life never stops teaching. This is Dr. Jeremiah Riordon, and let's open it up if you have any questions. Oh, I see we have chat.
Thank you, Dr. Riordon. Thank you for presenting this. And there's Bob Spillane. If anybody has any questions, I've been asking them to ask through the chat box there. But thank you very much. That was very informative. And I think that may help a lot of people, especially now that folks are at home. And what do you suggest for people that are working at home and helping small children with online learning? Because I think that is a challenge for a lot of people that are working from home right now.
Excellent question. And what you're going to find out is, I see there's a question from Dana Carnegie. Thank you, Dana. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and we're working on our own home schooling methods. Their school is going to be online for the first month, and then they go back to their public high school. It's my son's first year up at the high school, my daughter's last. But I also have an awful lot of friends who are working in teaching, friends and family. And one of the things that we find is for the individuals that are between the ages of preschool up to the age of 13, The more hands-on experience we can get with any activity, the better they're going to process the information. The more practice they can get with their hands-on, getting their hands dirty, up to their elbows, doing the assignment, they're going to get a much better foundation for the information that they're supposed to be mastering. The individuals that are 14 to 18 have reached a level in which they may have enough self-discipline. Of course, the 14-year-old may need a little more review and also oversight at first until the habits begin to form. It takes 21 repetitive actions for a habit to begin. So for that 14-year-old, you may have to work with them and make sure that they're sticking with all these practices and just adhering to them for the first few weeks so it becomes part of their rote memory. For the older students, for 17 up to, I've had 77-year-old students online, it really comes down to engaging with the instructor and engaging with their peers. Mm-hmm. Whether it's through the discussion board, whether it's through a weekly, say you create your own Zoom account or your own Skype account and you meet with a group of peers, I really strongly will recommend for individuals who are 14 to 17 to do weekly study groups, which they connect, they talk with their peers. They're socially interacting, which we know is critical, especially over this first month when we're going to be doing an awful lot of online. They're still connecting, and we need them to build that foundation. For the individuals, that's no different for the individuals who are pre-K all the way up until 13. Some are a little bit more mature, some are a little bit less mature, but they're going to have to spend a lot of time on the hands-on activities, but also make sure they do connect socially somehow with their peers, even if it's just a simple Zoom meeting. And get them to talk about the assignments. I recommend to my students, I had a bunch of students from from UMass Medical, and they were all in the same class, and they got in the habit of having lunch with each other every single day. And even during the times of social distancing, they all had separate little round tables, and they were able to talk about what was confusing them in the class before. And I actually, with that group of students, because they were in these study groups, which have gone by the wayside, sadly, for a lot of schools, I watched their entire grade slide up about 15% for that group of 7 students that met every day and talked, because they're processing the information into their long-term memory. They're using it. They have to have an understanding about it. And if they miss something, another student may point it out and say, no, according to the text, it says, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden you've got the point, you've got it, and you've actually engaged in the conversation. So you've used it, hitting a lot of primary modalities of learning. So get them to talk about what. So many people want to know all the answers and they think we should know all the answers. Saying I'm confused is seen as a weakness, but this is the time they need to say that.
Yeah, good. That's great advice. I don't have any other questions. So I think you covered a great deal of information for us to take back. I appreciate all your time, and on behalf of the Worcester Chamber and Fallon Health, we want to thank you, Dr. Riordon, and thank you to all the participants. And as I said earlier on, I have recorded this session. I will be sharing it with all of you after the event. Once I get it, I will share all this information. And I'm not sure, Dr. Riordon, would you like to share that slide deck?
Sure, I'd be happy. I'll send that to you. That's not a problem.
Send it to me, and I'll share the slide deck along with the recording of today's webinar. Thank you, everybody.
It's a passion of mine, Lily, and
yes.
I really want everybody to online learning can be fantastic, but you got to just know how to do it. And
yes.
And it can be very beneficial. I've also got that video that you can also share that address if you want. That's just a little more produced. So.
Okay, great.
All right. I'll send the slide deck to you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for sitting through the presentation. And thank you to Fallon Health.
All right. Thank you.